Shabbos, good Shabbos. It is Chayei Sarah 5777, and I want to talk about Eliezer in this week's Parsha. We find that Abraham Avinu, he commissions his servant Eliezer to find a wife for Yitzchak, the man who wrote the book on Kavura. And so Eliezer, Chazal brings out, based on the language of the Torah, that Eliezer was trying to do a little something bargaining, trying to find a shidduch for his daughter. And so he said, what if Rivka doesn't want to come back? Or he didn't know who it was at the time, but what if this woman doesn't want to come back with me, And so essentially, Avraham picked up on that and he said, look, Eliezer, I love you, buddy, but you're cursed, I'm blessed. Blessed and cursed don't work. And I just want you to know that you're a good person. Who you are is who you are, and that's great. Just be the best person that you can be. Just realize that your daughter and my son are not going to get together. And so we don't see Eliezer, giving Abraham the bird or go storming off or smashing windows and cars. Like he just goes and does something actually pretty cool. When he gets to the place of Rivka and her people, he says, "I am the servant of Abraham," which we learn that Eliezer accepted the no of Abraham, which is something that we want to bring about in this video today, is that there's a cool phonetics. There's always really unique things about the Torah. One of those things is phonetics. I know that during I think it's Musaf during Shabbos, and also during Mincha throughout the weekday, and during Shabbos as well, we read about the bonaik and banaik, which is a piece in the Talmud, if I'm not mistaken, and it talks about how your children will be builders. Bonaik is builders. Banaik is children. So there's always cool phonetics, and so we also find that there's some cool phonetics in the English language as well, which ironically will play into this week's parsha. That the word no, there's actually two words. No, N-O, is in a prohibition. No, you can't do something. And then no, K-N-O-W. No, did you know that you could do something? Those two words will work together hand in hand. Actually, ironically, the word no, did you know you could do something, as a knowledge, contains the word no, N-O. And so, I don't know about you, but to me, it brings us back to the point of creation where where Hashem said, you cannot touch you cannot eat, you cannot eat of the tree of knowledge. It was lo, you can't, no, you can't. And so, ironically, about the tree of knowledge. So we know that knowledge is an aspect of boundaries. That the more you know, they say, the more you don't know. There's that no again, both of them. But it also reminds us of number 28. Why 28? Well, ironically, it takes 28 years for the sun to return back to its original point from the day of creation. And so it's at this point every 28 years, which we recently just had, actually. I think it was last year, year before last. We say a bracha, and it's called Birchat HaKachma, and it's called the blessing over the sun. So we say that every single time the sun returns back to its original state. We also know that from the number 28, we find the letter Chaf and Hey, which spells out Koach, power. And also from this we find with 28 the couplet, the 14, what is it, 14 couplets. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Anyways, 14 times 2. There's 14 seasons, and 2 sets of each in Kohelet, which talks about a season of time to die, time to sing, time to live, and that kind of stuff. So we learn, bringing this all together, is that we learn that as we're trying to find our place, which is Pirkei Avos chapter 6, and 48 ways to acquire Torah, is knowing your place. Knowing your place is one of the ways to acquire Torah. Ironically, 48 is also one of the numerical kin of the number 4, which 4 denotes space, time. There's 4 seasons. There's 4 seasons. There are 4 seasons. There's autumn, spring, fall, or I should say, autumn, spring, winter, and then summer. There's 4 directions. There's north, south, east, and west. And so, bringing us to the 48, bringing us to the 28, to the 14, knowing your place is really, really important in acquiring Torah and understanding who you are. And so, when you go about that journey of trying to find who you are, you enable yourself to collect the sparks in a much more effective fashion. And then that will bring you back to the point of creation, bring you back to your origin. It will bring you back to your center of knowing who you are and being the best person you can be, being the best asset to the world and to your time here on this earth. So it's really important to know who you are. We learned it from Eliezer that finding that no and understanding that no is not a you're a bad person or you're terrible, or you're inadequate, but just simply that that isn't my role, that isn't my place, and I've got to be okay with that. And it's important to be okay with that. So um, know your place. Know your place, find your place. I know for me, as a black man, as a person going through conversion, as a father, as a son, as a husband, as a student, as a teacher, you have to know your place. You know, when to speak, when not to speak, what to say, how much to say. All that's very important. You have to have situational awareness. And sometimes knowing your places, knowing your desires, knowing the things that yeah, it may be strong in your heart, but maybe that's just your place in this world of overcoming that. Because if you can overcome that, then maybe someone else can overcome a more life threatening addiction, where you lust after a person or after a relationship or after a thing that occupies your time. You can overcome that. Someone else can overcome a great addiction to murder, a great addiction of even more darker activities in life. So knowing your place affects the world. And so if Elijah hadn't known his place, maybe he would have been privileged to have Rivka. Maybe Yitzhak could have been tricked. Maybe Abraham would have died before anything could have happened. But knowing his place helped keep things on track. And we got to learn a very powerful mitzvah regarding Rivka. Elijah didn't storm off and exit the scene. We got to see Rivka, and we got to see a very powerful situation of faith and seeing Hashem answer someone's prayers. So that's more insight for another time. But that's Parsha Chayei Sarah. I hope everyone's doing well, and good Shabbos.